So we're here today to do a press conference representing a diverse range of opinions regarding the proposal for a toxic waste disposal site just downstream here on Canner Road. So we're going to let the presenters speak for no more than 20 minutes in total. Open it up to some group questions if you're interested in that, and then break for one-on-ones. And if anybody wants to go down to the site, we're keen to take you down there too. So just a quick introduction. My name is Sheila Muxlow. I'm the campaign director with the Water Wealth Project. We're a community association looking for long-term protection of our home waterways. We were asked by local residents to help call attention to this issue, and we see it as one of the many that impact us here, and why we do need to see some long-term water sustainability plan for this region. So without further ado, I'm going to introduce Grand Chief Clarence Pener of the Stalo Tribal Council, and he will do this off.
Clarence, before you get rolling, could you also spell your last name, first and last name for us so we have it?
Clarence Pener, C-L-A-R-E-N-C-E-P-E-N-N-I-E-R. Good morning, and I'd just like to first of all say thank you to all of the people who have gathered here this morning to talk about an important issue that could possibly affect all of us up and down the river. You know, for thousands of years our people have lived in our territory, and this is one of the areas that's very important for fishing, of course. And one of the things that, you know, we're talking about good relationships with the city and with our neighbors and with the regional district. And when something like this comes into play, they should at least talk to us about what kind of projects are going to happen in the territory, and then we can look at what sort of impacts it may have on our Aboriginal title and rights, so that we can make sure that our people are understanding of what is happening in the area. And we just wanted to make sure that the city and the regional districts, they don't have the duty to consult like the province and the federal government, but, you know, to be good neighbors, we should be talking to each other so that we can maintain those relationships in a good way. So, you know, like in terms of the Stalo Tribal Council, in terms of the Stalo people, it does pose a threat because it's close to the river, and it could impact some of the fishing sites that are just down the road from Bowman's Mill, as we call it. So I want to say thank you for being here and listening to all of our concerns about our river and about the fish and the other resources. Thank you.
So we have Clapton up here. He's the president of the BC Federation of Drift Fishers.
Rod, I know I have the spelling, but again, if you could, first name, last name, spell both for me.
Certainly. It's Rod Clapton, C-L-A-P-T-O-N. Again, I also want to welcome everyone here today, considering the weather. I guess we're getting a break at the moment, which is a good thing. Certainly demonstrates the passion that people feel regarding this issue, and people appreciate the fact that the potential impact that it could have on our resources. And I think it goes without saying, probably, but the significance of having the First Nations, environmental aspect, and of course the recreation fishing community united in common cause. And of course the catalyst for this, obviously, for this union as such, is directly behind us here, where the proposed hazardous waste facility is planned to be built. And needless to say, the threat of that, considering that we're talking about the world's #1 salmon river, I think everybody appreciates it. This is just really not the location for a facility like that. When you talk about, when you put together words like PCBs and floodplain, mercury and floodplain, I mean, that's just the wrong equation. That just doesn't work. It's not only floods which are an issue, and I think as you can appreciate behind us, you can see just how this area here in high water is totally covered up to in past years, including where the facility is going to be. It's also the drainage issue. When at the end of the conference here today, for those that have an opportunity to go down and see the facility, we have people here that are experts, much more than I am, of course, into drainage issues and so on, to show you the drainage aspect of it as well. So it's certainly not just the flood we have to worry about. with all due respect to the authority of Chilliwack Council, I think people have to realize that, again, as the world's largest salmon river, the implications of this go way beyond the boundaries of Chilliwack. You have all the communities along the Fraser River. You have provincial concerns. You have concerns Canada-wide, again, as the world's #1 salmon river. There are international implications. Talk to people at the Pacific Salmon Commission. Is the Fraser River important? Of course it is. So huge, huge issues. I should point out that certainly, we're not opposed to industry or any additional economic opportunity. When you consider that the recreation fishery that I'm representing contributes $1.2 billion to the provincial economy on an annual basis, the Fraser River alone contributes in excess of $100 million economic opportunity. We're looking at additional opportunities, particularly working with our friends from First Nations for areas like opening up additional camping, boat launching areas, etc. So again, there's lots more economic opportunity here. But we certainly have to be opposed to any type of economic opportunity like this with the potential catastrophic impact on fish stocks and wildlife in general. The facility, very simply, it just can't go ahead at this location. And I believe if there's two words that really spell it out, the two words are floodplain. That's what we're talking about here. Regardless of whatever safety provisions that the proponent and perhaps Chilliwack Council say are going to be imposed, it just can't go ahead at this location. It's just fraught with peril. To put it bluntly, I would suggest that over the years, we've been pretty lousy stewards. Let's not make it any worse. Thank you.
So next we have Lina Aiz, who's a community organizer with the Fraser Voice Initiative and part of Watershed Watch.
And again, we'll get your first name, last name, spell both.
All right. Lina Aiz, Lina Aiz. So good morning, everyone, and thank you very much for joining us out here in the floodplain of the Fraser River. Our ask is very simple, and it's already been stated a few times. We are not opposed to this facility. We are merely opposed to its location, and we would love to work with anybody to find an alternative location. Let's do what's right, and by that we do not mean not in the floodplain. One of the things Watershed Watch has been very involved in over many years has been the Cohen Commission. And I'm sure you've all heard about those and the recommendations made by Justice Cohen to protect our wild sockeye salmon, and he made specific mention, of course, to the salmon of the Fraser River. One of the key recommendations was to put together a wild salmon policy, and one of the main points of the wild salmon policy was to ensure that we maintain habitat and the integrity of our ecosystem. Putting something, a plant like this, right on the Fraser River, as Rod mentioned before, one of the world's #1 salmon rivers is just incomprehensible, and it should not be happening. This plant does not support the goals of the wild salmon policy that we are working to build at a watershed level. It is important that we need to speak up for this project to ensure that yet another potential impact will not be placed upon the salmon in this region. So that is why we at Watershed Watch are partnering up with all of the people behind me here to speak against the location for this plant. Of course, the risks of mercury and PCBs are very well known, be it upon salmon through bioaccumulation and biomagnification, and their direct impacts on humans as well. Thank you.
Last but definitely not least, we have the National Director of the Wilderness Committee, Joe Foy.
Hi, my name is Joe Foy, and I'm National Campaign Director for the Wilderness Committee. And I was very pleased to be asked to come out here and speak on Coast Salish territory here beside the Fraser River. I was very concerned not only to hear about this project, which proposes to bring mercury and PCBs right to the banks of the Fraser River, I was really concerned and perplexed to hear that the Stalo Tribal Council had asked to be informed, had asked to engage in these decisions, and has so far been turned down. That really set the alarm bells off for me. Across our province, across our country, the way we govern ourselves these days, First Nations governments are key in making proper decisions, especially proper environmental decisions, especially environmental decisions that concern the resources that we are surrounded by here. The largest sockeye salmon river on the planet. Bald eagles hang from these trees like Christmas ornaments. This is the ancient territory of the Stalo people. Of course they should be part of this decision. I am hopeful there is still a provincial component of making this decision. I'm hopeful that the duty to consult and to get consent for a project that has a potential impact on such an important part of Stalo life, important part of all our lives, can be achieved. And that's why the Wilderness Committee is going to be paying very close attention to this. We hear the people saying they're not opposed to recycling, to dealing with these materials, but for gosh sakes, not on the banks of the Fraser River. Thank you very much.
So anybody want to launch any questions collectively to...
Well, what happens there now on the site? I guess I'm wondering what happens on the site. What are the Stolo boundaries here? Why did they pick that particular spot near the river? If anyone can answer those kind of general things. So yeah, I guess I'll ask, what do they do there now?
It's empty just at the moment.
It's empty? Okay.
Former logging storage ground.
Logging storage ground.
Yes.
Okay. So does anyone have any idea why this particular spot is attractive to this recycling company?
It was available.
Cost, I would assume, perhaps least opposition, perhaps, to this sort of thing, out of minds or out of sight.
Yeah, you know, that kind of. If someone's got an answer, maybe if you're closer to the mic, that'd be useful. Does the company have a history?
Company has quite a good history from what we understand.
You're elected. Yeah. Okay. So does the company have a history?
Currently, there's nothing at that site. The site is being sold by Catamaral Logging, who are famous here in Chilliwack for logging 550-year-old trees. So that's the seller. That's where it starts from. The land was bermed, paid for by the company, which is unusual. Usually on properties like this, you'll have, a government do that and someone else pay for the maintenance. In this case, the city is maintaining the berm and the company built it. So they have a bermed off property that's not in use. They have a questionable environmental history, and they've now sold it to a waste company that's looking for a site that's close to BC's waste. This is not Chilliwack's waste, this is BC's waste. They also have the possibility of importing waste from other jurisdictions, perhaps even the States. The volumes are extremely high. They're only using a part of the property, so one of the things that we're worried about is Chilliwack is embedding itself into the waste-driven economy. There's many other sites that could open up next to the PCB plant, and I don't think they'll be making donuts right next to it. So our worry is this will be yet another bad tenant. Across the street from the site is a meat rendering plant, another M6. It's not, actually they haven't built the plant, they just have the right to build the plant. If they build that plant, it is not protected by the berm. It could also contaminate the river. Then we get in the situation of which company possibly did damage to the river. Is it this M6? Is it that M6? As these things start to multiply, it becomes a really big problem.
What is M6?
Special industrial sites. One of the key things that's missing is there's no monitoring system to say, is this thing leaching any chemicals into the river? There's absolutely no monitoring in that.
Where's the property line? Is it close to?
We can take you to the site. It's
I'm just looking at it now, though, before we go to the
we
site.
just past those white lights.
Is there some properties between that potential site and where we are now?
Yes.
Solo territory here?
Sure.
There's properties between.
Yeah. And the properties that are next to it are of a higher elevation that drain through this site, which is like a big bowl of water that needs to be constantly pumped out. So the city of Chilliwack pumps out water. There's a great expense made to turn a swamp into an industrial site. This doesn't happen naturally. This is a swamp. So there's a lot of money being spent and a lot of water being pushed into that site on a constant basis. So we don't have to wait for a flood to have the problem of water on the site. The site is constantly filling with water with a lot of apparatus trying to disperse it right through a wildlife management area and into the Fraser River.
So you're saying that the site then is below the floodplain and the berm is the only thing that's really keeping the water out?
The berm and the pumps that pump the water out constantly.
Is it fair to
just so we have it on recording, just your name so that we don't.
Glenn with one N, Thompson with a P.
And with what group?
Friends of the Chilliwack River Valley.
Is it fair to be picking on the city of Chilliwack here? This is industrial zone land. This already was zoned M4 for heavy industrial. They could have built this plant here anyway, but the city actually said they wanted them to do a rezoning so that they could have some controls in a special industrial zone. This is industrial land.
Right, but I don't think you can have PCBs and mercury on M4 industrial land. This is a really special chemicals. Another thing that they have there is infectious waste, which also needs to be treated with special care. This is not normal materials that you'd find. And our mayor, to say, is this a city issue? Our mayor is famous for being against waste energy because she said she was concerned about mercury in Chilliwack. She's now importing all of BC's mercury to Chilliwack. If one of those trucks crashes, which we've had several crashes on Highway 1, or if there's something happens in their plant, it discharges into the river so quickly there's no opportunity to stop it. That land was designed to drain. It was not designed to contain. There's a huge difference between draining and containing. We need containment. It's draining. That's how it's built.
Another issue I heard come up was consultation with Stolo. Does anyone want to speak to that and expand on that a little bit? So is this just as simple as a matter of consultation, that if you were involved in the process, that maybe you'd be more confident that they've got some type of plan?
Well, if we were consulted about the development, we would have at least had the opportunity for our group called People of the River Referrals Office, who have a number of technicians that would have been able to review their reports and let us know what's really involved about it, because I don't know all the facts like the gentleman here was talking about, because we usually have some other staff that would review all these things and let us know how dangerous things could be. So, but like I said earlier, that the duty to consult lies with the province and the federal government, and that's been proven by a court case that municipalities and regional districts don't have that duty. But like I said, if we're going to be good neighbors, then we should really sit down and talk to each other about how things could impact our rights and our title.
Do they have some waste management facilities already on the properties here somewhere?
Chiam had
Just something by the Rose
landfill. They had a landfill.
Is it still operating?
No, it's closed down.
Yeah, I'm kind of confused because we do have stories in Richmond where people are dumping inappropriate waste into the farm. It seems like it's a provincial responsibility, and the city of Richmond is powerless. And here it's the other way around. It's the city of Richmond that is the final say in this potential plant. Do you have any idea how the province's jurisdiction seems to change from place to place?
Not really. It probably just depends on the projects that are in play.
The Minister of Environment will have to approve this. And will there not be a duty to consult with you at that point when the ministry and the province gets involved?
If the province does get involved, but as far as I can read into some of the things that the municipality has, those certain duties that they have to do, and they've done their due diligence, and as far as they're concerned, that it's going to go. So.
I thought the province had to sign off on this. So
Like I said, I'm not too sure about that. If we were